Hey guys, this is Joey, and you're listening to That Pastor That Has No Answers. And before we move on to our talk, I just wanted to tell you guys or remind you guys that you can go to pastorwithnoanswers.com and be connected to our Twitter account, Facebook account, Patreon account. Would love to see you on there. There's also a link to a Pastor with No Answers discussion group that I didn't even start. Pastor just started that thing without me. It's pretty cool. So you can go to pastorwithnoanswers.com, and while you're at it, if you want to go to iTunes, leave me a rating. That'd be pretty cool. Only helps me out. I mean, you're listening to this podcast, might as well help a brother out, right? So wanted to touch bases with you guys about an email that I get somewhat regularly, and that is in regards to an episode that we recorded back in the day about gay people. And I say gay people because I used to say homosexuals, but a friend of mine who is gay told me that that's actually somewhat of a derogatory terminology, because it just reeks of pastors whose face turns red as they wipe their brow with a handkerchief and yell at the homosexuals, saying that they're going to pay the price unless they repent and that sort of thing. But anyway, we had part 1 and part 2. It was episode 23 and 24, and as we grow in our listenership, some of you folks go and check out some earlier episodes, and this one is something that a lot of people, this topic, a lot of people pay attention to. And I had someone who brought up some really awesome points, but was also very angry. This person is gay and thought that we came across very stupid. We came across very ignorant. We came across somewhat unloving, some of the people on the show. And I emailed them back, and I obviously vouched for what they were saying, look, I would agree that we sounded pretty stupid. And what I talked to them about on the email, what I want to talk to you about as listeners, is just kind of the pastor with no answers rule. There's some rules of this podcast that they're not written anywhere. They're not on a tablet. I didn't get them from Mount Sinai. But they're in my heart, man. They've been embedded in my heart. Not really, but I just kind of think this is how we operate. This podcast is meant to have discussions, and discussions that entail processing out loud. I think oftentimes we're uncomfortable with processing out loud personally because we know the dangers of that. We know there's so much risk in that by messing up and saying something that's not only stupid but potentially offensive to other people. And I think we miss out on something super important, because processing is something that we all have to do. We all do it whether we're aware of it or not. So why not do it out loud within reason? Doesn't that benefit people? So what I told this person, I said, look, sure you're right. Sure we sounded stupid. Certainly sorry that we came across unloving or even mean. That was not our agenda. And obviously another criticism is, hey, you didn't even have a gay person on there to speak for gay people. And I get that, but that's another thing is this podcast, another rule is just conversation. So I don't want to necessarily feel like I need to pick and choose the best people to talk about a particular topic, because here's the fact. There's often times where me and maybe 3 other straight dudes will talk about gay people and homosexuality because it is on the news. It is mishandled in the church. It is talked about flippantly, and it disregards the fact that there's real people that we're discussing. And so those conversations do happen without a gay person present. And so I figured, if those conversations are done behind closed doors, I just want to have it up front. And not to mention the fact that we have had gay people on this podcast. A friend of mine that I grew up with, was in youth group with, he was on this podcast. We just interviewed a friend of mine that's bisexual. So we're not trying to close the door on a certain demographic as much as just having conversations with people. So that's my little spiel. If you hit that little 15-minute fast forward button a few times, I don't blame you. Michael Overcash, he's a good friend of mine. Go way back, been in a small group together, had a decent amount of conversations. Not somebody that I spend lots and lots of time with, but the important thing is he's a big Clemson fan. But honestly, one thing about Michael is he's one of those guys where it's quite possible that he's the smartest person in the world. Like, you know how you know certain guys and there's something about them, and when I say guys, that is not gender specific. Guys in the North, hey, you guys, that's male and female, my friends. So, like, Matt Carter's another one. Is he the smartest person ever? Like, if you could study a brain and decide, this person's look at how their brain works and look at the information in there, they're the smartest person ever. You just never know. Michael may be the smartest person in the history of the world. And I wanted to have him on to tell our listeners a story that I think is just really cool because it's true and it's something that you would see like in a movie or crazy, intense thriller TV show. It's like nuts. It's just a story worth telling. But then we got into a conversation about many other things, and it occurred to me that, hey, Michael is starting to get on the topic of why he believes, and that just led me to ask more questions. And so here's how the Pastor with No Answers segment of Why Do You Still Believe was birthed. It was birthed with this conversation right here with possibly the smartest person who's ever walked on the face of this earth, Michael Overcash. All right, so I'm here with my friend Michael Overcash, and this sort of stuff is what gets my head spinning in a good way, because obviously stories like this bolster my faith, but it's a whole nother thing to like know that you were just telling me how, from a science-minded man like yourself who's in the medical field, a dermatologist and all that stuff, you're typically skeptical of, the terminology miracle sometimes, and always, you can always think of the alternative, and you're someone that I know and respect. So a story like this that you're about to tell, I'm like, I know Michael's not insane.
I'm not going to make anything up either.
Yeah. So take us back to that day.
Okay. So I've been surfing for a long time, and I always like going on surf trips with my buddies at Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
We went to Costa Rica every year at the end of the season. It was like a reward for working on the boulevard in touristy Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. This is how many years ago? How old were you?
This is the 90s.
Yeah.
And so I'm like in my 20s.
So you're listening to like Spice Girls on the way?
Probably, unfortunately. I still have the musical taste of a teenage girl, my wife would say. I have to give her that. But we'd always go to the West Coast, just knowing the East Coast of Costa Rica was more dangerous. A lot of drug trafficking.
Yeah.
Even the time we went, the last time, there were newspaper articles about carjackings and people being murdered. And it's like Limon is the big city on the East Coast. It's just known for crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
But being young and single and invincible, like us men tend to think we are, we just decided to go. So Jeff and I decided we're going to get, we got a really good truck with 4-wheel drive and elevated air intake, and decided we're going to do it. We're going to go to the East Coast.
Yeah.
What happened on the way there was a torrential rain and there was flooding everywhere. We drove through little villages and towns, and people were sitting on roofs. They were sitting in chairs up on platforms. The water was up people's walls. We were going across rivers that were swollen, and just kept pushing into the night until it got quite late. And we knew it was dangerous. We knew we'd probably made a bad decision. But we had to keep going to where we were going to stay because we didn't know anybody. We didn't know where else to stay. We could just stop, and there's not like hotels in the places we were going. It was a very rural area of southeast Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So we came to a bridge that was just a little one-lane bridge. We probably hadn't seen a car in half an hour. Just nobody was out. Nobody was stupid enough like us to be out there. Right. At the end of the bridge, the end was blocked with some small trees. So we stopped. As soon as we stopped, 2 men ran up on my side and 2 on Jeff's side of the truck, and just put guns to our head. And spoke the first English we'd heard in a few weeks, and it was the first black people we'd seen in a few weeks.
Right.
And said some first curse words we'd probably heard in a few weeks, and told us in no uncertain terms to get out of the car.
Right.
At that moment, what I thought in my head was, my mom always told me if someone had a gun to my head, it's not worth losing your stuff to fight and get shot trying to save your stuff. So, okay, right thing to do is, all right, hands up, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so these 4 guys with like 2 with pistols and 2 with rifles. They took us out of the car, and they kicked us and beat us. They pistol whipped us and just hit us in the head with the guns, and stuffed us back in the back of the car. 2 of the guys got in the front, and then 2 guys climbed in the back of this little truck with us. It was like a little Toyota-sized truck. And then 2 guys got on top of us in the back and just kind of climbed back in. They took off. So for the next hour, 2 hours, we're bouncing through dirt roads, banana plantations, going who knows where. My head's bleeding. These guys are speaking this sort of Creole Gullah language. We don't know what they're saying.
Right.
And we don't know where they're taking us.
Yeah.
And I'm in the floorboard. It's dark. This guy every now and then just hits me just for good measure, just to say, shut up, stupid, just whatever. Just make sure that we knew that they were, don't even try anything. Right. And Jeff's on the other side. If you asked me a week before that, what would that feel like? I would have said, I don't know, I'd be scared, peeing my pants,
right.
Who knows what. But I can tell you, what it was like at that moment is I felt this complete, all-encompassing sense of peace that that God was there, that God was in control, that God was powerful. And
right.
I felt...
So this may be a stupid question. Are you a Christian at the time?
So, yeah, I'm a Christian at the time.
Okay.
And now Jeff, the guy with me, he had just become a believer about a month before that trip. This guy's in his 30s. He was my boss, actually. Yeah. And for 10 years... me and everybody else and the Campus Crusaders he hired had been telling the gospel, and he'd rejected it. And in another separate miraculous event, he and his wife simultaneously became believers without knowing the other one did at the same moment. And he was a brand new Christian.
Gee.
And so he's sitting there beside me, and so later on I found the same thing out, that he's sitting there at the same time as me without us saying a word. He and I are both praying for our captors, praying for the guys that abducted us. Lord, have mercy on these men. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Be merciful. And I felt sad for them. I felt, we knew they were going to kill us. We knew this is what they do. They take you off somewhere, they shoot you, they take your car. Then there's no witnesses, and they got all your stuff.
Right.
We had hours to think about dying and going to heaven. And I was closing the book of my life. and
You're not married, no
not married,
kids.
and I had that regret. I was actually still a virgin,
Yeah.
never married.
You're like,
no
dang
kids.
it, Lord, please, can there be sex in heaven,
I
please?
really regretted not getting laid even one time before I was going to die. But I was like, you know what? It's going to be better in heaven. It's going to be, and I really had this, like, I started getting excited about, it sounds weird, but I was like, I'm going to be in paradise today.
Yeah.
This is going to be the best day ever.
Yeah.
And these guys are going to be suffering on earth with the consequences of whatever they're doing, stealing and killing people for a living. All right.
Yeah.
And Jeff was doing the same things, praying for them and just feeling God's power, just his absolute presence in that moment.
And did y'all know this was going on in y'all's heads?
No,
Yeah.
not till later when we talked.
Gotcha.
But eventually they stopped and took us out of the car. And we were on a beach. We could hear the waves rolling in, and they tied us up. They tied our hands together and our feet together, and then our hands and feet together behind our backs, face down the sand. And then they went through our truck, looking for whatever. They were trying to find cash. But I had all my money in $100 bills folded lengthwise, rolled into film canisters. Remember back when cameras used film?
Yeah.
And I would roll. I did a lot of traveling, so I would hide my money in film because then one would think of film canister. It looks like exposed film. Then we'd look in there. That's where all the money was hidden. But they were going through our stuff. They were then they started yelling and fighting, and we didn't know what they were fighting over. And they were saying, "You do it, no, you," just kind of arguing back and forth. And then I guess one guy lost because one of the guys walked over to me and just grabbed my hair and pulled me up off the ground, picked me up by my head off the sand, and then held his gun to my head. And at that moment, I knew there was going to be a loud bang, and then maybe it would hurt. I didn't care.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was just ready. I had summed up my life, and I was thankful for what I got to do, and I was ready. I was like, all right, Lord, thank you for my life that I had, and thank you that I get to be with you. And I'd always been kind of a reluctant Christian, and suffered with worldly temptation, and felt like it didn't mesh with the Christian culture that well. But I knew as a believer, and I knew how the gospel worked. I knew how God worked, and I knew His presence, and I felt it at that point, at that point in my life. And I was ready, but for some reason, when He pulled the trigger, it just went click. So again, He pulled the trigger and cocked it, pulled the trigger, and just went click. And then
So He kept trying.
just twice.
Twice. Okay.
But then it left. They took off in our truck and left. Just took off. So I don't know why. I don't know if the gun misfired.
Yeah.
If I don't know why they didn't shoot us.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? It gets rid of the witnesses. Now they have witnesses now who are alive who can whatever try to find them, but they didn't kill us that day.
Gosh.
So.
And they could. I mean, they could have said, "Well, if the gun's not going to work, we'll."
They have 3 other guns. They have 3 other guys there. They all have guns. Why didn't someone else say, "Well, here, try mine. This one works." Why, So I think about this just over and over in my head. Now looking back, I mean, I don't know why. I still don't know why they didn't just get another gun and kill us.
Right.
Did they not have? Were they running out of bullets? I don't know.
Right. I mean, do you think so? I'm trying to think from a skeptic's point of view. Do you think that their whole intent was to scare the bejeebers out of you
Absolutely.
and then just leave?
So I think that's certainly was. I certainly think that's one of the possible reasons is that they never intended to kill us. That they were just arguing who was going to pretend to kill us.
Yeah.
And then it's that you do it, and then knew the whole time they weren't really going to shoot us.
Yeah.
So they might have never even had bullets at all.
Yeah. What are you convinced of? I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. That I'm not worried about that part.
Right.
The amazing thing to me is, given this chance to live now, it changed my whole life because I had so many hours to reach closure that I thought the rest of my life from that point on, I live life every hour, every day like this is bonus time.
Right.
I shouldn't even be here.
Right.
I already lived a life.
Yeah.
And I felt a fearlessness and an invincibility and something like whatever God, why did He spare me? I need to find out. And
Right.
I'm supposed to do something with my life, because why else would he have let me live through this?
Yeah.
And so I decided that instead of just traveling to surf everywhere, I was going to start doing missions or something meaningful. I was going to do something to make a difference in the world, something of significance,
Yeah.
besides just enjoying the best beach breaks in the world.
So yeah, so you feel like God capitalized on whatever that was that happened. I mean,
so who? Yeah.
yeah. Gosh, that's
And,
so great. So I mean, what your friend's name is?
Jeff. Yeah.
Were y'all just like, what in the world?
So it's a whole nother long story with other miracles in it, how we
Yeah.
got back.
Yeah.
But we were able to untie each other. We walked west until we found a road. We flagged down cars until someone stopped.
Yeah.
It took us a week to get back to where we could get plane tickets and get back to the U.S. But, we slept on in hallways. I used bottle caps to keep my contact lenses in at night.
Yeah.
We got food from strangers. But it was 7 days of walking around with just like, it was pure joy. I felt like nothing could stop us now.
Yeah.
Like I would walking around at night, sleeping in a hallway of an abandoned building. I didn't even think about what somebody might rob us. Oh, really?
Right.
What are they going to get?
Right.
And God, if God's got this, and I just knew, okay, God's got a purpose. I
Yeah.
almost felt like nothing could happen to me now.
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to die already. And
Yeah.
He didn't let me.
Yeah. Well, you mind if I take this in a few directions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I won't
Yeah.
take up too much more of your time,
That's
but
fine.
this has definitely sparked some more questions. Let me pull something up.
Well, the other miracle is Jeff prayed for $200 because we had to get a passport issued. We had to get our tickets issued.
Yeah.
And we had no money. And a stranger we didn't know walked up to us in the street and gave us $200, exactly what Jeff had prayed for. And that's how we got our tickets reissued, which is
Are you
$50
serious?
each.
So
I'm
you
serious.
you weren't
Some guy-
asking for money,
a
just
stranger.
What did he
okay?
say the money was
he
for?
ran up to us and said, "Hey," he said, "Hey," he said, "I heard you guys talking in the embassy to that lady in there." And because the lady in the embassy said, "Okay, you need to turn this form in with $45 in a 2x2 photo." And
Yeah.
we said, "We don't have any money." And she said, "Well, when you do, bring the form back." And he chased us down and gave us $200. And that's what we used to get our tickets reissued and temporary passport and everything.
Wow. That's nuts. That's nuts. All right, well, so let's take a general look then at Michael Overcash's faith. Are there times and not even related to this story necessarily, but are there times when you struggle with a general belief in the God of the Bible, Jesus, and just basically our Christian faith? Are there times
Sure.
when you're just like, man,
Yeah,
do
I
it?
think
Do I believe?
I'm always trying to look at the other side. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I listen to political things on the radio, like
Yeah.
NPR, and read things from like the atheist perspective or the other political perspective than mine.
Yeah.
And I think, well, how could someone believe that? And I really try to get in that, and I feel like I can embrace that thought life and
Yeah.
understand. And sometimes I think, you know what, my life would be more comfortable as an atheist because I wouldn't have to worry about if I wanted to do whatever, just do whatever. And what's it look like socially? I don't care. Like right now, because I'm a mission leader and, lead mission trips, and I have to, not only obey God because, it's the right thing to do and God loves us and those things are for our own good anyway, but I have to, do it because, if people see me at, doing something stupid, I can't,
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
So I think about that.
Yeah.
And I do question it. I question things like when I hear people argue about things like evolution or, I think the Big Bang points to creation.
Right.
But if evolution is real, does that mean that that's how God did it?
Right.
Or is the whole thing a big, phony scam?
Right.
So I think about that kind of thing.
So for you, what's the main things you grasp at when maybe you're having doubts? I mean, is it like the historical narrative of Jesus? Is it like scientifically it doesn't make sense for all this to have come out of nothing? Is it things that you see as supernatural experiences or like the peace of God? I mean, what's the main thing that kind of keeps you grounded?
So I feel like like I can explain away any miracle, anything emotional, whatever, that can be explained away scientifically or psychologically. So even the things that I just talked about, the experiences I had, you could explain all that away.
Yeah, you would have no problem with
Right.
someone saying that's not a miracle.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
But where did the universe come from?
Yeah.
We have strong evidence now that there was no space, no time, and no matter, and all of that came into existence at the same moment.
Yeah.
And within less than a nanosecond, expanded outward and then became transparent to light. There is the creation of the universe, the Big Bang, defies all the laws of physics that we have, and it makes no sense, and it cannot be explained by any physical thing. And someone could say, well, yeah, but they couldn't explain lightning a long time ago, so they made up Thor.
Yeah.
But this goes far beyond that. Everything came from nothing.
Yeah.
So that alone, we need to, if there's not a creator, where you've got a big question there.
Right.
The fact that the complexity of human life and mankind goes in the face of the law of entropy.
Yeah.
With thermodynamics, disorder increases. The rest of the universe disorder increases. It doesn't
Right.
increase.
Well, tell me how you would answer this, because you are actually like way smarter than me. So if someone were to say, well, Michael, you have belief that there was a God that existed throughout eternity. I just believe the universe existed throughout all eternity. I mean, is that logic? I mean,
it's not. So we know the universe didn't exist throughout all eternity.
Yeah.
Because the expansion
Right.
of the universe currently, the fact that you can look in between the stars and the farthest reaches of space and see background radiation, you can see the light of the origin of the universe redshifted out to where it's just 4.92 kelvins. You can see this. There's all sorts of evidence that even Isaac Asimov, when he, a famous atheist, when he saw the information, had to say, well, I don't know God, but there is one.
Yeah.
And for 7 years, I traveled 50 countries as a backpacker and spoke to people of every religion I could come across. I spent time with Buddhist monks, with Muslim, with Jewish, with atheists. And I'll tell you, I believe either all religions are just completely false, just phony, made-up scams, or Jesus is the only one way to heaven.
Yeah.
Because the rest of them, just to me personally, my opinion, is impossible to keep all of any commandment system.
Yeah.
Just humans are flawed and imperfect, and only Jesus provides a way that says, all right, you know what? You blew it. You're going to blow it. But I got you covered.
Right.
I'm going to pay for your sins. I'm going to redeem you with God.
So you're saying
that's my only chance.
Yeah. So you're saying either they're all wrong or maybe one of them's right.
Either I'm completely scred because they're all a bunch of hooey, and I might as well just eat, drink, be merry.
Yeah.
Or, I'm screwed anyway because it's not Christianity, which
Right.
I don't believe.
Right.
Or Jesus really was not a charlatan. That
Yeah.
He really was the Messiah, and he really was resurrected, and then I have had too many dozens of things in my life show evidence of that to not believe in it at this point.
And how do you, like a lot of people deal with the pain of this world in different ways, how do you see that as far as a good loving God overseeing everything, and then you, of all people, have been to a lot of different places and you've seen a lot of pain. I mean,
Absolutely.
we don't have to look far even in America, but you've been in other countries and third world countries and you've seen it firsthand.
Right. I mean, I did tell people to their face that, your kidneys are failing and you are going to die. You can't get dialysis.
Yeah.
Or you have terminal cancer and you need to make arrangements. So here's the thing. That's not God's fault. God could have made us robots that have no free will, and we could never mess things up and have a perfect Garden of Eden, but that's not how He made us. I don't want to be a robot. I'm glad I can choose to love or not love. That's the only true love there is. If I make someone love me, that's a robot.
Yeah.
I'm glad my wife loves me because she chooses to. If someone made her love me, it wouldn't be real. And so God gave us that choice, and because He gave us the choice to love, we have to have the choice to not love. And so because of that, we have the choice to do evil. So if I sleep around and get AIDS, is that God's fault? Did God give me AIDS, or should I have kept my pants on?
Right.
that's on me. And so we bring about evil and destruction. And if we create global warming and there's a hurricane and it wipes out a town, did God do that?
Right.
I'm not going to say he did that. And I'd say the Problem of Pain by C.S. Lewis, such an enlightening book.
Yeah.
That I have to keep rereading that because it makes so much sense that there has to be pain, and that God doesn't see pain the way we do.
Yeah.
He sees pain the way we as a parent, when we see a child do something we see them run in front of a car.
Yeah.
And nearly kill themselves, we might spank them.
Yeah.
That hurts. We're hurting them. Why are you hurting them? Why are you hurting me if you love me, Daddy? But it's that we love you so much, we're going to spank you because I don't want you to ever do that again and get hit by a car.
Right.
And he sees the value of pain and what it can do for us, and the temporary nature of it in reference to eternity. And so I don't think he's that worried about. I think he cries with us, but he also sees more value in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So last question, being in the medical field, seeing people in desperate situations, what is your take on prayer? And do you feel that it is a normal thing to expect that when someone has a death sentence or they're being told, hey, you're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life, or hey, sorry, your mom's never going to wake up from this coma, you've got decisions to make, should it be a normal expectation for Christians to say, well, we're going to pray and God's going to deliver on this? Like, God's going to answer this prayer specifically how we're praying.
I don't think we can control God.
Right.
And I don't think we can ever expect that he has to do whatever we ask him to do. I mean, I pray for Clemson to win all the time.
He answered, man. He answered.
Yeah. But at the same time, those Ohio State fans were praying too. There's some of them. I think there's probably an Ohio State fan out there. It's a Christian somewhere.
Right.
And, what you going to do with that? It's like Bruce Almighty, right?
Right.
So, no, I mean, obviously God's not going to answer every prayer that we want it to, but he wants us to. I want my kids to ask their daddy for things.
Right.
Am I going to give them everything they ask for? No.
Right.
But do I want to hear all their requests? Yeah. And I'm so much tinier compared to God than my kids are to me.
Yeah.
I have a shred of understanding.
Yeah.
And, but he's a good father, and I'm going to ask him for things. And that's all we can do.
Awesome. Michael, thanks, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.